You want me to flip the switch?
Yep. You can go when you're ready.
Yay, thank you.
Now from Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
Welcome into your Sports Tonight, this Monday holiday edition of Sports Tonight. We got a lot to talk about because week one of college football has officially wrapped up. It was quite the sight to see football back in the full swing of things, and a lot of good games that came your way. It kicked off with Georgia and Clemson in the AFLAC kickoff game, and boy, did Georgia show up. 34-3 win over Clemson. That defense, stout as ever, did not give up a single touchdown to the Tigers. You love to see it. Now Georgia will look to turn their attention to Tennessee Tech. That is set for a 2 p.m. kick on Saturday. But before we move on to that one, we want to hear from head coach Kirby Smart. Interestingly enough, it's one of the biggest storylines coming in to this week was Michael Williams and what his update for his status was, because he did hurt his ankle. It is a grade 2 sprain. It is stable. He'll be week to week, but he's definitely questionable this week, according to Kirby Smart. But let's tune in to what Kirby had to say today as far as that game goes, injuries, the defense, and what Tennessee Tech can present.
Can you grab that for me?
You can't. All right, everybody, thanks for coming out today. We'll start with Coach Smart. We'll have an opening statement, and we'll bring some mics around for the questions. Coach, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, excited to be here. Excited to get moved on to pursue getting better. We open with Tennessee Tech practice today, and we'll start attacking these guys. They played a really hard-fought game with Middle Tennessee the other night. Had a great comeback, and got a lot of respect for the way they played in that game for sure. And our guys will start getting prepared on them today.
Yeah, Coach. When we spoke to you last week, you kind of talked about Clemson, and Carson talked about Clemson being a man-to-man football team that likes to send a lot of pressures as a defense. When that's the identity of a football team, they come out playing a lot of zone coverage to start the football game. I'm curious how you guys adjusted as a staff, and did that kind of catch you by surprise?
Not necessarily. They've been a pressure team, but they're not necessarily man-to-man pressure. They play a lot of forms of pressure, very similar to what we do in terms of zone, sims, and two traps mixed in with some man-to-man. And they probably played a lot of more single-high man and zone than they have in the past to load up on the run. But I wouldn't say anything our offense gets surprises us because we have a huge volume of defense. So they typically get exposed to a lot of defensive structures. But that's neither here nor there. You can do a lot and be no good at it, or you can do a lot and try to be good at it. It's a lot more about the players.
Kirby, you were talking about the green dot helmet philosophy on defense. It's not necessarily the single color. Can you share who wore the green dot and expound on that? And will it be the same every week, or is that something that could change from week to week?
I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, we share who uses it every day in practice. I'll be honest with you, I don't even know. I mean, CJ had it some, Smile had it some, Raylan might have had it some. We have two helmets, so it depends on which pairing of players are in. We have other players that have green dot helmets in case they have to play a position that they're not normally playing. And we had a couple situations like that Saturday that we thought might happen with injury, so we had other guys ready and prepared to use the green dot. But as far as I know, we just had the linebackers using it.
Coach, it looked like Arian Smith was, very involved in the offense, first two touches of the game, and not necessarily, beat him deep situation. Can you just talk about his development purely as a receiver and how much you guys are depending on him offensively this year?
Yeah, we want to depend on everybody because you don't want to be a one-dimensional team. So the idea is to, ever since we've been here, it's spread the ball around. We've had a lot of guys with a lot of touches, nobody with a ton individually, and Arian's been a great case study in that because he's touched the ball vertically, he's touched the ball sideways. He's become a more complete receiver and route runner. I thought he made some plays out on the besides the rocket sweep things and the edge runs. He made some plays catching the ball outside, and that's big for him. That's growth for him, and we need more guys to step up and be able to do that. And we got to be innovative in ways to get touches that make us hard to defend.
Yeah, Kirby, any updates on Michael, Warden Brinson, Janelle Aguero going in this week?
Jonelle was close to being able to play, worked out before the game. Thought he might be able to go in an emergency. I don't really know today anymore. We just had a walkthrough. He walked through, and hoping he'll be able to go this week. Warren got a little bit of an ankle / contusion. Wasn't able to go. We're hopeful he's able to go. Michael has an ankle sprain. It's a grade 2, but it's stable. He'll be week to week. Probably questionable this week, but not going to be a long-term ankle, and we'll see.
This is sort of an off-topic question, but I'm curious. Obviously, so much of your time is devoted to today and this week and that sort of thing. But when you're thinking about, and it's probably more an off-season thing, the bigger picture direction of the program, whether it's how to navigate NIL or the portal or replacements for your coaches, what's your process for making those decisions?
All of them?
Maybe let's pick out the NIL. How do you come to decision? Here's how we want to do this.
Just organizational conglomeration of information. I mean, I can't answer that question. Just I'm very process detail oriented. We have a way we go about things. We talk about it. We visit with others. We brainstorm. We do what any good business would do, and we try to make the best decision. But I mean, when it comes to NIL, it's what can we raise? What do we have? What do we have available? What's the best value, and what kids fit our culture, and who's going to be unselfish and come here and play for University of Georgia and not just for the money. There's a lot of things that go into that decision, and those other decisions you talked about, there's a ton, especially in the off season.
Coach, now that you've had time to watch the tape, what were your thoughts on how Jared Wilson fared?
I knock on wood, I don't think we had an errant snap, and that was something that was really important. We chart his snaps every day, and he's been about 95, 96% snap accuracy, and that's something that you can't afford to have. It's got to be 100, and I thought he did a good job of doing that in the game. I think if you ask Jared, there's some things that he should have done better, he could have done better, and he didn't play his best football game, but like I tell kids all the time, if you miss time in training camp, it tends to show in the first game, and he missed some time. He did some really good things, some really athletic things, and then he had a couple plays that he didn't make. And I think he was the first guy that came up to me walking off the field and said he screwed up a couple plays, but that's football.
Yeah, what does it say about London Humphrey's abilities to come in and make those big third down catches after just transferring into the program this offseason and even coming in for relief for Dylan Bell on Saturday?
Yeah, it's great. He does a good job. He's probably more in relief for Arian, and he did a good job. He's got SEC experience. I think that's what the portal provides you, to go get a guy that's been successful and played well in our conference. And he's done that. He's proven himself as a guy that can make plays, and he was ready when his number was called. And we talk about it all the time, is your opportunity's coming. Are you going to seize the moment when the moment jumps in front of you? And he did that.
Kirby, after reviewing film, what were your impressions of Malachi when he played the star, and what kind of flexibility does that give you in personnel when he's able to play there?
He did a nice job when he played the star, especially for a guy that didn't rep there but last week a few times. I mean, he didn't get any reps in camp there, so he did a good job jumping in and filling that role. Flexibility, it just depends on the depth at other positions. I mean, Malachi can be our best player at 5 positions, so it's more a matter of what's around him and what's healthy, working, and what are we going to do defensively? You know, like he plays a role at safety, he plays a role at strong safety, he plays a role at star, so he does a tremendous job. It gives us some depth, but I'd rather not have to be relying on the depth and rely on the guys that practiced all camp.
Coach, you said after the game, as far as Jalen goes, that coaches have had to get, I guess, uncomfortable in using him on the field. I just wonder, how many guys have you been around in your career who can go inside out like that with the ability that Jalen has, and what is it about that skill set that makes him able to do that successfully?
Well, we're unique in our defense. I shouldn't say unique. I don't know how many others do what we do defensively because I'm not in their programs. So we're very different in regards to what NFL scouts and personnel tell us, that we still train, outside backers to be Sam outside linebackers, and learned a long time ago that you need to develop 2 skill sets because the game has changed and evolved to be more spread oriented. So these guys that played outside linebacker against a 2-back asset, they weren't finding homes. They might have a home in the NFL, but they didn't have a home in college. And we make promises that we're going to develop you in multiple ways. I mean, going back to Natrez Patrick, he could play into the linebacker, and he could also play inside backer, and he was used to rush and do things here. Lorenzo was that way. Quay Walker started as an outside backer and inside backer and had flexibility. So we think it's part of your growth. We say all the time you're going to get 98% of your football reps in practice, so why not experiment and grow? And that 2% you get to play in the game, you get to show off all these things you learned. And then when the next level comes calling, they've seen you do multiple things. And it's really important to them that you can still play into the linebacker because their style of football still has some traditional nature to it as opposed to college is very different now. So I'm very proud of Jalen because he's had to really grow and get uncomfortable at inside backer. He's more natural at his outside backer position.
Kirby, what were your impressions of KJ in his first game?
KJ's very confident. He's played more football than most seniors. He's been playing since he was 6 years old in the heart of Atlanta, in one of the toughest leagues there is to play football. And he's played up against older kids all his life. He's extremely athletic. The moment's not too big for KJ. He's very gifted athletically, but he also has great football instincts and intuition. He's been coached by his father, and he's tough. And so I think that gives him a leg up on other guys coming in because he's just been playing football so long.
Yeah, having a chance to review the tape, what did you see out of Damon Wilson in his first game against Clemson?
Effort, like I did last year. There's things he's got to improve on and do better. He missed a couple opportunities to make a couple plays that I thought he should have made. But he's, I don't judge Damon on that body of work of those snaps. I judge Damon on the body of work of the 1,000 snaps he's had in camp. And he's had a really good camp. He's improved himself physically. He can play more downs now. He's got to continue to get stronger and maintain his weight. But just the few snaps our guys didn't play many snaps. I think we had 56 or 57 snaps. So, we didn't have, I think we had 18 guys that played over 28 snaps on the whole team. So there weren't a large number of snaps played by anybody. So that body of work is not real big.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned the snap count. That Clemson offense, I believe, led the nation last year in plays per game at 77. What was the key to limiting their amount of touches in the football, and were you surprised they huddled as much as they did?
I really don't know what their decisions are for their offense. It's when you stop people on third down and you're hard to run the ball on, you're not going to have a lot of snaps. And we were fortunate to get off the field on some third downs. They were also unfortunate. They had a couple drops early that would have gotten them rolling. So, it is what it is. As far as the snap count numbers, I think people with the headsets, you may end up with less plays than normal because of people wanting to wait and talk.
Coach, you mentioned Arian's improvement, and he talks about in fall camp just becoming more consistent. I know it's only one game, but how have you seen him prioritize that?
Oh, Arian works. There's no harder worker on our team than Arian Smith. I mean, he's a product of a really tough physical program, and he'll tell you today he stands in front of the team and he is just a completely different person. He had never had to practice and strain like he does here, and he has made decisions that he wants to be really good, and so he works really hard at it. I mean, there's not a play that I can find where Arian doesn't run hard to the ball or try to block somebody and do something extra, and it's that way on special teams. You know, he made a huge special teams play in the game and continues to improve by doing those things.
Kirby, what kind of jump have you seen from Lawson in his second year in the program?
More confident in the system, healthy, tougher and more physical, but needs to improve on that, and just a passion for the game. He's really, really football savvy. He understands football and leverages, and has made a lot of plays, you know, in the passing game, and continues to play more physical.
Coach, just want to ask about Michael Morris. Didn't seem to get a whole bunch of snaps the other day, and also I know the last couple of snaps of the game you're able to get your freshman, redshirt freshman, all in there for the first time. How big is that for kids like that to get a chance?
Hopefully, I mean, the work they get every day in practice. I mean, I know for you guys, everything is about that small snapshot you see of the game, but for me, it's what are you going to do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? Because you're going to get 40 or 50 snaps against a really good football player today and tomorrow, and we really try to impress upon our guys. There's so much value in our practice that it's held in higher esteem a lot of times by NFL organizations than the game is. And it's not understood by the common fan that practice is more important than the game, but it certainly is here. Micah's got to continue to improve. I mean, it's one of those deals that we're going to play the guys that practice the best, and if he practices better, he'll get to play more.
Kirby, can you comment on Anthony Evans? And I'd agree about practice, so I'm hoping maybe we'll get some availability practice this week.
Keep hoping. What?
About Anthony Evans on the punt returns and the importance that he had with
I thought he did a great job of fielding the ball. The ball hits the ground and it bounces. And I watch all these games in college games where the ball bounces in 20 and 30 yards field position is getting flipped. You know, it takes a lot of confidence to go and judge the ball, especially in that dome. And there were some strange punts. There were some balls doing some crazy spin. It was a left-footed punter. So, you know, one of the wins of the game for us was not letting the ball hit the ground and bounce. He did once, and it went in the end zone, which was a judgment call by him. So I was very pleased with what he was able to do in terms of punt return.
Two questions for you, Kirby. One, after your Mike Bobo was done after the game, being able to talk to Carson, what was the review of the whole headset thing? Did he like it? Could Carson hear? And the other one is from week 1 to week 2, what do you want to see as the biggest improvement among your football team?
I can't pick one thing on improvement. I mean, there's so many things that we got to do better. I mean, all of it. I mean, there's just a lot there that we want to improve on, and you know, some of what you're doing is dictated by who you play. And people just think it's a stat game. It's not a stat game. It's who you're lining up across from and how good is that football player, because that does dictate things, the matchups. In terms of Carson and Mike, I mean, we've done it every day for 32 practices. So it wasn't any different than the 32 practices that we did it. It shuts off at 15. You talk before it. It wasn't any different than our scrimmages. It was exactly like we practice, and we've had probably 60 walkthroughs. So between the walkthroughs and the games, we've got some form of communication. Walkthroughs, it can't be a helmet, so it's a earpiece, but he's heard it all.
Coach, just from your perspective and your philosophy over the time here, going from game to game, where have you seen the growth among your players in that focus and mentality when you're going from opponent to opponent, no matter where they play or who they are?
Yeah, I don't know that I have this year because we haven't done it. You know, it's like every team's different in terms of and over time they change. Like I can't compare 2018 to 2020 to 2022. I mean, because the teams are different, the maturity level, the experience level. It does seem that every year we get younger, so every year it's a greater burden and challenge on the older players to set the standard and hold people to how we go about our preparation and putting a game behind us and moving on to the next one. But it's the same for the coaches, and we don't change how we go week to week. We have a protocol, we have a checklist, and we follow that.
Have time for one more question if anyone has one.
So Georgia didn't look much different than they did last year, still an absolute powerhouse, and there's a reason they're still ranked #1 overall. Another big matchup from this past weekend, Georgia Tech and Georgia State. The Yellow Jackets pulling out the win 35-12. Another fun one. It was only 14-3 at half, and then the Yellow Jackets really just opened up that one in the second half. Haynes King firing on all cylinders. Jamal Haynes also looking incredibly sharp in that one. So that was some great Georgia games here, and one we have to talk about because the Kennesaw State Owls are definitely heading into their FBS era. They had their first game against UTSA at the Alamo Dome, and it was quite the atmosphere, maybe something they're not as used to from years past, but something they'll definitely get acclimated to, and they put on quite a showing. Brian Bohannon talked to the media today, and we'll hear what he had to say about that game shortly, but they only lost to the Roadrunners 28-16. They did secure their first FBS touchdown. Always love to see that, and now it doesn't really, I mean, their schedule is not easy for a first year in the FBS. They will host Louisiana on Saturday at 7, the first FBS game at Fifth Third Bank Stadium, hoping to get a good crowd out there. But let's hear what Bohannon had to say about not only this game against UTSA, but what they're looking forward to this upcoming Saturday.
You know, we had our practice yesterday, talked to the team after the game and yesterday. And really the message was I was extremely proud of how hard we played, how tough we were, how resilient we were. You know, it looked like Kennesaw State football from that perspective. And I was extremely proud of the way we attacked things and how we managed getting down and kept fighting. And we talked about that. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about adversity and those things, so extremely proud of that. On the flip side, our execution's got to get better. And really, I went through every possession just about on both sides. You average about, 6 possessions a half on each side of the ball, 12 total, and talked about the things that were just self-inflicted that put us in tough situations and just kind of went through it. And I said, we got to keep playing hard. We got to keep being tough, and we just got to clean up some of the things that we can control. The opponents are enough, right? We just played a veteran football team with a ton of seniors on the road in a really good environment. There's times you couldn't hear, and so we got to control what we can control, and then you deal with the opponent, right? So those are the things in a nutshell from the game. And I said this to them after the game, and then we went through it in a little more detail yesterday. They knew it after the game. They knew it. Like one of our kids on the team even started talking to the team before I got to them. They knew it. They want to. It's a good group. They want to do it right, and they're working their tails off. So, and also I think to point out a little bit from the game Saturday. I mean, on defense, Jaden Grimes, defensive lineman, true freshman. Got banged up, hoping to play, but hey, true freshman out playing a lot. Jaden Kimball, a lot of football played Saturday, made a clinic open field tackle. Rico Washington played a few games last year. Tyler Hallam played in a few games last year. Ike Paul's never played for us, started. Q Billingsley's hardly played here, played a ton on Saturday. Like a lot of guys, especially on defense, to go in that environment and kind of navigate it a little bit, I think was good. And on offense, it's the same thing. You got a lot of guys that haven't played as much football. And just Davis Bryson alone, the quarterback, that's his first start in a real, and we did it last year, to try to help him, but that was it. And so I think there was a lot of guys out there that, that haven't played a ton, which is good to go get that experience in a really, really good football environment where it was loud. And I told the guys, like, I said the staff, I told them, I said, I hope it's loud the whole game, because if it gets quiet, that means we're done, right? But we were in it, and we were in it and made some critical errors late in the game, and we couldn't overcome it. And it wasn't just really those. I think it was a culmination of some things that we could control. So not to get long-winded on that, they were a really good football team, really, really good on defense especially. And so they won the game. I give them all the respect in the world. Coming back home, obviously exciting, first FBS home game in the history of this program. Get to come back to Fifth Third Stadium. I hope Fifth Third Stadium is as loud and hard to manage Saturday as it was for us in the Alamo Dome last Saturday. That would be the goal for this Saturday. But we're excited to be back home. Obviously, playing at home is a big deal for us. We are playing another veteran football team.
So we will see what the Owls can cook up on Saturday when they take on Louisiana. Some other big notes we have to talk about. The offense for the Braves kind of lets them down in a crucial series against the Phillies. They lost the finale last night 3-2 in extra innings. You absolutely hate to see that, which kind of begs the question now of where are they sitting given today as we get closer to October, as it is September 2nd, which is crazy to think about. And if everything as it stands right now was today's situation in the American League, you would have the wild card between the Twins and Astros, Royals and Orioles. And then in the National League for the wild card, the Braves would take on the Brewers and then Padres at the D-backs. So that's kind of how that would pan out. Then your NLDS would become Braves or Brewers against the Phillies in the NLDS, which you hate to see if you're a Braves fan because it's given a little whiplash and flashback to the last couple years of that series between the Phillies. You also just saw what happened. So that's how it sits right now. We'll see what happens. There's still some ball to be played, but that is the latest on where the Braves sit. Also worth mentioning, week 1 of the NFL is officially here. It's been long awaited. We've had to sit through that preseason. If you remember, the Falcons did lose all their preseason games, but no worries. They sat almost all their starters in every single one of those games, especially after they lost a few to some injuries. The Falcons did announce, however, their captains for this season, which you probably would have guessed who they would be. Quarterback Kirk Cousins, safety Jesse Bates, then you have defensive lineman Grady Jarrett, and offensive lineman Jake Matthews, all rounding out the captain. So much and well-deserved from them. So we will see how they fare. They're taking on the Steelers this Sunday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. A homecoming of sorts for Arthur Smith, who's now the OC with the Steelers. Cordell Patterson also there, who in an article recently said that he just felt like Arthur Smith is different. He's lighter, that this was a good move for him. It will be interesting to see how the Falcons talk about Arthur Smith in this reunion that could come on Sunday. So we will get to be able to talk to those players on Wednesday. Raheem is scheduled to talk. Kirk Cousins is scheduled to talk. A lot of people scheduled to talk on Wednesday and throughout the week to get you ready for week 1 of the NFL. Very, very exciting stuff. But that will do it for this edition of Sports Tonight. Join us throughout the week for all the headlines. That will do it for tonight. Have a great night.